This happened in the summer of 2011. I was 19, and I'll never forget the way the air smelled that week. Pine, algae, and something off. Something I couldn't name back then, but now I think it was death. My girlfriend Lena had invited me and a few friends to her family's lake cabin for a week. It was secluded, tucked into the forests of northern Wisconsin, on a stretch of water called Black Birch Lake. The place was beautiful during the day, dense forest on all sides, still water like a mirror, but at night it was another story entirely. You couldn't see the stars through the tree cover. The wind would hiss through the branches like whispers. Never sat right with me. The locals were strange too. The gas station guy near the highway told us to be careful at the lake after dark. When I asked why, he just said, "Some things never leave the water." Then he rang us up like it was nothing. We laughed it off, of course. What else would a bunch of cocky college kids do? On the third night, things got weird. Lena woke me up at 2 a.m. She was shaking. Said she heard someone crying by the lake. I thought maybe one of our friends had wandered out drunk, so I grabbed a flashlight and followed her down to the dock. The water was calm. No wind, no sound. Then I saw it. A woman, no, a figure, standing waist deep in the water, about 30 feet out. She was facing us. Long black hair, pale skin that seemed to glow unnaturally under the moonlight. But what really froze me was her eyes, huge, wide open, and completely black. Lena gasped. That was all it took. The woman moved, not walked, glided, fast, straight toward the dock. A run. We didn't sleep that night, none of us. When we told the others in the morning, they didn't believe us. But something changed in Lena after that night. She got quiet, zoned out a lot. She'd sit by the water and stare like she was waiting for something. Sometimes she'd hum this low, rhythmic tune I'd never heard before. I'd ask her about it, and she'd act like she didn't even realize she was doing it. By day 5, I was scared. On the 6th night, I woke up to find her bed empty. I ran outside, barefoot, heart pounding. The lake shimmered under a sickly moon. There she was, standing on the dock in her nightgown, staring into the water. I called her name. No response. I screamed. She turned to me and smiled, but it wasn't her. That smile didn't belong on Lena's face. It was too wide, too calm. And she stepped off the dock and into the water. I sprinted after her, but by the time I got to the edge, she was gone. No splash, no ripples. The water was perfectly still. Divers searched for 3 days. No body, no clothes, nothing. It was like she was erased. The authorities ruled it an accidental drowning. But I know what I saw. And sometimes, when I pass a lake on a quiet night, I hear her humming again. Soft, haunting, from beneath the water. Back in 2004, I worked as a seasonal counselor at a summer camp in Vermont. The camp was built around this gorgeous lake, still blue, with a rope swing and 3 little cabins for staff. I was assigned to cabin 6, the one closest to the woods and furthest from the water. The older counselors warned me, jokingly, that cabin 6 was cursed. They said a counselor drowned in the lake in the 80s, and that she used to live in that very cabin. I laughed it off. I didn't believe in ghosts. I still don't. Not exactly. But I believe in whatever happened to me. The first 2 weeks were normal. Campfires, canoe races, bug bites, exactly what you'd expect. But then weird things started happening in my cabin. I'd wake up to find my drawers open, my mirror fogged, even though it wasn't humid. One night I found all my clothes piled in the middle of the floor, soaking wet, even though it hadn't rained. I figured someone was messing with me, probably the other staff. Then came the dreams. Every night I'd dream I was drowning, not just struggling in water, being held down. I'd wake up gasping, heart hammering. My sheets always smelled like the lake. One night, I stayed up late reading. I heard footsteps outside, light, barefoot. Then a whisper. "It's time." I froze. The doorknob twisted, slowly, deliberately. I grabbed the flashlight and swung open the door. Nothing, just the woods, silent, still. But there were wet footprints on the deck, leading from the path to my door, barefoot, small. The next night, I locked my door and pushed a chair under the knob. Still, I woke up at 3:11 a.m. The same dream, same drowning sensation. Only this time, when I sat up in bed, the window was open, and there she was, standing at the foot of my bed, a girl, maybe 19, pale, dripping. She didn't speak. She just looked at me and smiled. Her eyes were filled with sadness, but her lips whispered something, just barely. Faint. Then she was gone, vanished. I left the camp the next morning, told them I was sick. I never went back. I looked up the camp's history years later, found a news clipping from 1987. Camp counselor drowns in mysterious circumstances. Her name was Elsie Moore. She lived in cabin 6, and the time of death, 3:11 a.m. In 2016, I took a solo camping trip to clear my head after a rough breakup. I picked this isolated spot by Stillwater Lake in northern Idaho, somewhere I could fish, hike, and be completely alone. But alone is a funny word. I arrived in the late afternoon, set up my tent by the shore and cracked a beer. The lake lived up to its name, so still it looked like glass, not a single ripple. That night, I lit a fire and watched the stars. No cell signal, just the sounds of nature. Then, across the lake, I saw it. My reflection. But not in the water. On it, standing on the surface like it was solid ground. Same clothes, same posture, just staring back at me. I blinked, rubbed my eyes. It was gone. Too much whiskey, I told myself. The next morning, I saw footprints by the water's edge. Mine and someone else's. Barefoot, deep, leading into the lake but never coming out. That night, I sat by the water with a flashlight. No fire, no sound. Around 1:00 a.m., I saw movement. Someone rose from the lake. Slowly, silently. It looked just like me, but its face was wrong. Too long, eyes too wide, a slack jaw that didn't move as it whispered. I ran to my car. I didn't pack, didn't grab my gear, just drove. I returned weeks later with a park ranger. My tent was shredded, my tackle box was submerged in the lake. The ranger asked if I'd seen any other campers. I said no. He looked confused. "We had a complaint," he said. "Someone across the lake saw you talking to yourself and then saw someone else come out of the lake to meet you." He paused. "And they said, they looked just like you." There's something about lakes, so calm, so peaceful, until night falls. Until the fog rolls in, until the water stops reflecting you and starts reflecting something else. The stories you've just heard weren't just for entertainment. They were true, real people, real encounters. They went searching for peace, solitude, maybe healing, and instead found fear, dread, and something far older than we can understand. These lakes, these quiet bodies of water, they're not always still. They hide things, watch things. Sometimes they take things, and what they take, they never give back. It makes you wonder how many missing campers were simply written off, how many shadows weren't tricks of the light. How many people stayed silent because no one would believe what they saw? If these stories haunted you, if they stirred something deep in your chest, then, like this video, subscribe to the channel and share it with someone brave enough to hear the truth. And most importantly, if you have a story, something unexplainable that happened near a lake, or something that still keeps you up at night, drop it in the comments. You might see your story in one of our next episodes. This channel isn't just about telling horror. It's about collecting it, amplifying it, preserving the darkness we all try to ignore. Until next time, stay safe out there. And whatever.